The most important study ever conducted on hormone therapy just published its 20-year follow-up data, and what it found should be in every gynecologist's office, printed on every prescription pad, discussed at every menopausal woman's annual appointment. It isn't. Here's what the data actually shows. Women who took the most commonly prescribed form of combined hormone replacement therapy, the kind still handed out in routine appointments across America every single day, had a 26% higher rate of invasive breast cancer than women who took nothing. Not a marginal signal, not a borderline finding that researchers debated, a 26% increase, confirmed across 2 decades of follow-up in the largest randomized controlled trial ever conducted on this question, published in JAMA in 2023, the Journal of the American Medical Association, the most cited medical journal on Earth. But here's the number that stops me cold every time I read it. Women in that study who developed breast cancer, the ones who had been on combined synthetic hormone therapy, were 38% more likely to die from that cancer than women in the placebo group who also developed it. It wasn't just that more women got breast cancer. The cancer they got was more aggressive, more lethal, more likely to end their lives. And yet, as of today, that same formulation is still being prescribed routinely, often without a conversation about alternatives, often to women over 60 who are already carrying elevated baseline breast cancer risk simply because of their age. I've spent years reviewing the research on menopause treatment, cross-referencing clinical trial data, going back to original studies rather than the summaries that get handed down through prescribing guidelines, and what I found is a gap between what the current science shows and what the average woman sitting in an exam room is being told. That gap is what this video is about. Because here's what the same body of research also shows. Not all hormone therapy is the same. The molecule matters, the delivery route matters, and for women who want no hormonal exposure at all, there is now a non-hormonal option, FDA approved in 2023, that targets the exact neurological mechanism behind hot flashes and reduces them by more than half. Most women have never heard of it. Many of their doctors haven't discussed it. So if you are currently on hormone therapy, or considering it, or have been told your options are limited, this video is what your appointment should have included. Hormone replacement therapy relieves menopausal symptoms. It reduces hot flashes, improves sleep, supports bone density, and can stabilize mood. Those effects are well documented. The issue is not whether HRT works. The issue is that the term HRT encompasses several distinct interventions with different risk profiles. The formulation most commonly prescribed in the United States carries the highest documented breast cancer risk. After menopause, ovarian production of estradiol and progesterone declines sharply. Estradiol drops by approximately 90%. Progesterone declines almost entirely. The hypothalamus loses hormonal feedback that previously regulated temperature control, leading to vasomotor symptoms, including hot flashes and night sweats. Replacing hormones has a clear biological rationale. The critical question is which molecules, delivered by which route, carry acceptable risk. The Women's Health Initiative trial began in 1991. It tested conjugated equine estrogen combined with medroxyprogesterone acetate, a synthetic progestin. In 2002, the trial was stopped early because of an increased breast cancer signal. Prescriptions declined substantially following publication of those results. In subsequent years, messaging around combined HRT shifted. Prescribing rates gradually rose again. Many women received prescriptions without detailed discussion of the original WHI findings or the distinctions between formulations. The global HRT market is estimated at approximately $3.5 billion annually. Continuing medical education programs are frequently supported by pharmaceutical manufacturers. Bioidentical hormones, which are not patentable in their natural form, do not have comparable commercial backing. Research on bioidentical options exists in peer-reviewed literature, but dissemination has not been equivalent. The 2023 WHI follow-up reinforces that synthetic combined HRT is associated with increased breast cancer risk. At the same time, other formulations and delivery methods show different risk profiles. The relevant issue is not whether to treat menopausal symptoms, but which treatment is selected. This review outlines 5 evidence-based considerations for women over 50 evaluating hormone therapy. How old are you, and where are you watching from? Responses provide useful context for understanding how these discussions are occurring in different regions and age groups. Number 5. The study your doctor should have shown you. In routine medical care, patients are not typically walked through primary trial data. Clinical guidelines are expected to reflect current evidence. However, guideline updates can lag behind long-term follow-up publications. The Women's Health Initiative remains the largest randomized controlled trial on postmenopausal hormone therapy. It enrolled 16,608 women aged 50 to 79, randomized to combined estrogen-progestin therapy or placebo. Participants were followed for an average of 5.6 years in the initial trial and for 20 years in total follow-up. The 2023 results were published in JAMA. Women assigned to conjugated equine estrogen plus medroxyprogesterone acetate had a hazard ratio of 1.28 for invasive breast cancer compared to placebo. Mortality analyses showed that women in the treatment group who developed breast cancer were 38% more likely to die from it than women in the placebo group who developed breast cancer. Breast tissue contains estrogen receptors. After menopause, declining circulating estrogen can be associated with increased receptor sensitivity in some women. Medroxyprogesterone acetate binds not only to progesterone receptors, but also activates androgen and glucocorticoid receptors in breast tissue. Activation of these pathways promotes proliferation. Increased proliferation increases opportunities for DNA replication errors and malignant mutation. The population-level findings of the WHI are consistent with these mechanisms. The formulation tested in the WHI remains widely prescribed. Research findings can precede changes in prescribing patterns. Awareness of the data is essential to informed consent. Number 4. The molecular difference that changes everything. The term progestogen includes both synthetic progestins and bioidentical micronized progesterone. These molecules are not biologically identical. Medroxyprogesterone acetate is a synthetic progestin. Micronized progesterone is structurally identical to endogenous progesterone produced during reproductive years. In breast tissue, micronized progesterone binds primarily to progesterone receptors. It does not activate androgen or glucocorticoid receptors. Laboratory studies suggest it may have anti-proliferative effects on breast cells. Medroxyprogesterone acetate activates additional receptor pathways, including androgen and glucocorticoid receptors, promoting proliferative signaling. The French E3N cohort study followed 80,377 women for 8 years. Estrogen combined with synthetic progestin was associated with a 40% increased risk of breast cancer. Estrogen combined with micronized progesterone showed no statistically significant increase. A 2022 systematic review in the journal Menopause examined 12 studies of transdermal estradiol paired with micronized progesterone and found no significant increase in breast cancer risk across pooled analyses. Micronized progesterone is not patentable in its natural form. Synthetic progestins can be patented and branded. Educational dissemination often reflects these commercial structures. Clarifying which progestin is prescribed is a central component of risk assessment. Number 3. The delivery route that eliminates the clotting risk. Estrogen-associated clotting risk is influenced by route of administration. Oral estrogen undergoes first-pass hepatic metabolism. After absorption through the gastrointestinal tract, it enters the portal circulation and reaches the liver in high concentration. The liver responds by increasing production of clotting factors, including factor VII, factor X, and fibrinogen. This increases thrombotic risk. Transdermal estradiol, delivered through skin patches, gels, or sprays, bypasses the liver's first-pass metabolism. It enters systemic circulation directly, avoiding hepatic clotting factor upregulation. A 2021 study in climacteric analyzed data from 33,000 women. Oral conjugated equine estrogen was associated with a 34% increased risk of venous thromboembolism compared to no therapy. Transdermal estradiol showed no statistically significant increase. European Menopause and Andropause Society guidelines recommend transdermal estradiol as the preferred route in women with cardiovascular risk factors. For women over 60, baseline cardiovascular risk is already elevated. Route selection directly affects pharmacological risk. Understanding whether estrogen is prescribed orally or transdermally is therefore clinically relevant. Number 2. The non-hormonal breakthrough most doctors haven't mentioned yet. Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, and gabapentin have been used off-label to reduce vasomotor symptoms. These medications were developed for other indications. In May 2023, fezolinetant was approved by the FDA as a non-hormonal treatment for moderate to severe vasomotor symptoms. It is a selective neurokinin-3 receptor antagonist. Hot flashes originate in the hypothalamus. KNDY neurons, which produce kisspeptin, neurokinin B, and dynorphin, are regulated by estrogen during reproductive years. After menopause, reduced estrogen leads to dysregulated neurokinin B release. Neurokinin B binds to NK3 receptors in the thermoregulatory center, triggering vasodilation, sweating, and the sensation of heat. Fezolinetant blocks NK3 receptors, preventing neurokinin B from initiating this cascade. A Phase 3 randomized controlled trial published in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2023 enrolled 1,830 postmenopausal women over 12 weeks. Women receiving fezolinetant 45 milligrams daily experienced a 53% reduction in moderate to severe hot flash frequency compared to a 17% reduction with placebo. Improvement began within the first week. The medication is not indicated for women with severe liver disease. For women who prefer to avoid hormonal therapy, this represents a targeted, mechanism-based option. Number 1. The 5 questions that could change what you're prescribed. Medical appointments are time-limited. A 2022 survey in menopause found that fewer than 30% of women in menopausal transition reported discussion of formulation differences or route of administration options. Women who asked specific questions were more likely to explore alternatives. 5 questions can structure that discussion. First, what specific progestin is in this prescription, and has micronized progesterone been considered? Second, is this estrogen prescribed orally or transdermally, and what is the rationale given cardiovascular history? Third, in light of the 2023 WHI 20-year follow-up in JAMA, how does this formulation's breast cancer risk compare with transdermal estradiol plus micronized progesterone? Fourth, am I a candidate for fezolinetant if I prefer non-hormonal treatment? Fifth, if formulation distinctions are outside routine practice, can I be referred to a clinician certified by the Menopause Society, formerly the North American Menopause Society? These questions support evidence-based, individualized care. If you take these 5 items into your next appointment, something changes. You are no longer a passive recipient of whatever prescription follows a brief symptom assessment. You are an informed participant in a decision that directly affects your long-term health. That shift from recipient to participant is what the data consistently shows produces better outcomes. The 26% increased breast cancer risk from synthetic combined hormone therapy is not a sentence. It is a formulation choice. Formulation choices can be discussed. Routes of administration can be changed. Non-hormonal mechanisms can be explored. The options exist. The research exists. What has been missing for too many women is the conversation. The pharmaceutical industry has built its HRT business on synthetic formulations for reasons that have as much to do with patent law as with patient outcomes. That is not a conspiracy theory, it is a financial structure. One that shapes what gets marketed, what gets taught in continuing education seminars, and therefore what gets prescribed. Understanding that structure is not paranoia. It is informed consumerism in a system where information asymmetry has real consequences. Women who understand the difference between medroxyprogesterone acetate and micronized progesterone, between oral and transdermal estrogen, between hormonal and non-hormonal pathways, are having different conversations with their doctors than women who don't. They're coming home with different prescriptions. In some cases, they are making decisions that will affect whether they develop breast cancer at all. You are not too old for this conversation. Your body at 50, 60, or 70 is not a problem to be managed with whatever the standard of care default happens to be. It is a complex biological system that responds measurably, verifiably, often dramatically, when it receives the right intervention. The research confirms this. The studies cited in this video confirm this. Every one of them is linked in the description below with full citations because you deserve to read the primary sources yourself and not take anyone's word for it, including mine. If this video gave you something you needed, a question, a study, a word for something you'd been feeling without being able to name, share it with a woman in your life who is navigating this. The gap between what the science shows and what gets discussed in exam rooms closes one conversation at a time. And that conversation starts with you knowing enough to ask. Subscribe and join thousands of women who are choosing strength over fear, clarity over confusion, and power over passive aging. I'll see you in the next video.